Right, can we begin with roll call, please?
Mr. Antonio,
Here.
Mr. Badger,
Here.
Mr. Bleefeld,
Here.
Ms. Kiavachi,
Here.
Mr. Golson,
Here.
Ms. Karianikis,
Here.
Dr. Morris, Mr. Walker,
Here.
Mrs. Ginsburg. Here. Mia Bananis.
Here.
Isabel DaCosta.
Here. Great, thank you. Will everybody please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Great, welcome everyone to this December 9th meeting of the Wissahickon School Board. First, our agenda lists out our prior meetings. We met on October 28th for a work session, November 4th for a regular meeting, and November 18th was our racial equity oversight meeting. And our upcoming meetings, earlier this evening, we had our audit meeting. January 13th, we had our communications meeting and facilities and transportation meeting. On January 21st, will be our health, wellness, and safety meeting and racial equity oversight committee meeting. And January 27th will be our next work session, and February 3rd, regular public board meeting. We'll now have our WEOP student report.
Yes, thank you. This evening, we are joined by Allison Matizik. She's the WEOP president, and she's joined by Kara Costello. So they'll be handling the presentation this evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate having the opportunity to address the school board. This is usually a wonderful time for our students to present, but through some scheduling conflicts, Hannah Yum, who is the class of 2025, had a rehearsal, and Riley Taylor, who is class of 2026, had a work conflict. So instead, you get Kara Costello and I playing the role of the students. This has really been a rebuilding year for WEOF. We were so pleased at what we were able to accomplish for the district last academic year, giving over $100,000 worth of philanthropic gifts to the district, including the dugouts for the multipurpose fields, which we were so thrilled to do. We have 4 new board members that are joining this fall after having a couple that had to leave. So we're excited about that. We've also created several new functions for website, marketing and communications, and alumni outreach. That's an area that we think that there could be a lot more improvement, getting our alumni of the school district involved. We do have a few Wissahickon alumni on the WEOF board, which they always bring a different sort of energy to our meetings. So we appreciate that. We're also in, as I mentioned, transition in our executive board positions. We are onboarding a new treasurer in training and a new secretary in training as 2 examples. The 2 WEOF co-president roles are open. This is my 4th year of a 2-year term. And so we are really doing a call for applications, as this is a required position in order to keep the Wissahickon Educational Opportunities Foundation moving forward. This is our annual or biannual WEOF staff tribute season. So this is a shout out that we give to favorite teachers, administrators, bus drivers with personal messages, and all the proceeds fund the district school assemblies. These are a little example, and we have WEOF pens for all of you. So please spread the word. So Kara will bring those around. We've been able to receive grant money from numerous charities, including Charity Aid Foundation, Cleveland Cliff Foundation Lockheed Martin grant, and numerous employee matching contributions. That's really low-hanging fruit. So when we have individuals who are making a philanthropic gift, we are a 501c3, and many firms, including Merck and others in the region, will match those. That's been very helpful. Several of the grants have been managed by WEOF through restricted funds for programs such as the Robotics Competition Fund, the Robotics Mobile Museum Fund, and Fab Lab. We're really looking forward to continuing our good work and having the students participate, and they will be here next time to do their presentation. But it's been great to have them as a part of our conversations. So, any questions?
No, but I do want to thank you both for taking on the leadership roles in WEOF. I do know that it can be a thankless job, but we certainly really appreciate all the time that you put in and how you've been able to raise money for such important projects here in the district. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And if there's no questions, thank you so much for this presentation.
Actually, Amy, I have one. I just tried to look up the staff tribute and I didn't see like a direct link to get to it. Is that live right now? Tomorrow. Thank you. I will look for that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll now move on to the WIS Nation Hero Award recognition. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you and welcome to the 8th annual WIS Nation Hero Award proceedings. Now, in a moment, we're going to bestow this coveted award on a very deserving new recipient. But first, I would like to share the names of the previous award winners. We awarded these and each of them in this room. And these, remember, are people who are so incredibly giving to our students and caring for our students in an under the radar way. They're staff members sometimes members of the community. Just felt like we needed to recognize them as being the heroes that they are. So from the past, and this will be in order, you'll recognize many of these names. Lenny Robinson, really only known as Mr. Lenny. Ava O'Brien, Robin Betterly, Tina Durkosh, Kathleen Dearborn, Patricia Fabiani, Patty Fabiani, Anthony Horton, Tony Horton. And then there's going to be one more on here tonight, which we're going to get to right now. Now, as usual, and this year is no exception, there's been a little subterfuge involved with the process, and the person about ready to receive this doesn't have any idea what's about ready to happen to them. It's 2024. The plaque has got years on it, and we kind of realized that in 2024, we need a superhero, not just a hero. All these folks who have been here before have been heroes, but we really, in 2024, at least I feel like it's time for a superhero. Because remember what these folks do. These folks motivate students, care for students, do things for students that don't often happen. They don't ask for anything in return. It's out of the goodness of their heart. And what we really need is a superhero. Now, in 2024, I feel like we want to recognize teachers for being the daily superheroes that they are. I got this idea from, I can't remember, I'm just not going to admit it, where I got this from. Saying someone is just a teacher is like saying Clark Kent is just Superman. And I think that's a pretty awesome sentiment. So in 2024, we will honor Mr. Tim Smythe as a 2024 WIS Nation superhero. Don't get up yet. You'll have your time. He thought he was here for a different reason, which is this is one of my most favorite subterfuges of my whole career. Tim, many of you know Tim. In his classroom, he inspires his students. His classroom's alive with it's an energetic, novel approach, non-traditional approach to teaching history, comics, graphic novels. The students create things themselves. They talk about things. They demonstrate their knowledge of history through creating comics themselves. I mean, that's an incredible way to reach all students. Tim inspires his colleagues. I'm here to tell you he has an annual National Superhero Day. Whoever didn't even know that was the thing until I met Tim. Pick me up email to all his colleagues. It's kind of towards the end of the year. It's in April. It's kind of hard to keep going, but he picks them up. He reminds them why the importance of what they're doing, and he calls all his colleagues superheroes. And then Tim inspires his fellow educators everywhere. National presenter on these things, including at Comic-Con, how to make history and learning come alive. I had to hide this so he didn't see it. He's an author, no less, teaching with comics and graphic novels. Teachers everywhere. He has Comics Equal Literacy, teachingwithcomics.com. And educators across the globe come to this and come to his for ideas. And this is all out of one of our WIS Nation's teachers. So it's just an incredible privilege to have Tim on our staff. Now, tonight, joining us in the audience are some VIPs. I will say all of whom were in on the ruse. Other than Tim, he didn't know. Tim's wife, Joan, is here with us with her family, their family. Say hi to Dad and wife. Joan herself is one of our very heroic teachers, in her case, middle school. Tim's at the high school. So thank you for helping with this, Joan. Tim's very proud principal, Dr. Lynn Blair, is here tonight. She was actually the captain of the special ops team that carried this whole thing off. So thank you, Dr. Blair. And we're happy to welcome some people to say a few words on this special occasion, a former student, a current student, and a colleague. So with that, I will welcome to the podium first, Miss Kim Flores Aldana, who Tim thought he was here to honor. One of the many former students who Tim has impacted. And I might point out that, and Kim will share her story, but I learned this because she's now risen to the level of associate director, interim director of the Boys and Girls Club at Ambler. So, Kim, thank you for being here.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Kim. I'm a proud graduate of Wissahickon, class of 2018. I'm excited to be here in front of you guys today to share my experience with one of my most influential teachers. Starting high school was both an exciting and nerve-wracking experience. It became even more intimidating when I heard my friends talking about how challenging my new history teacher, Mr. Smythe, can be. Walking into his classroom on the first day, I was bracing myself for what I thought was going to be a very tough year. However, I quickly discovered that Mr. Smythe wasn't as intimidating as I thought he would be. He had a passion for teaching with comic books, which I found fascinating and unexpectedly relatable. By the end of the year, I could proudly say I had survived Mr. Smythe's history. Fast forward 2 years, I was surprised to once again have Mr. Smythe as my teacher my junior year. This time, my feelings have changed quite a bit. I wasn't nervous. In fact, I was genuinely looking forward to it. Reflecting on that year, I realized it was a very pivotal time in my life. Junior year brought significant decisions that shaped my future. It was the year I made plans for my senior internship, which ultimately led me to the career I have today. It was also the year that Mr. Smythe assigned a major persuasive essay, an assignment that had me with so much anxiety. But instead of letting me doubt myself, Mr. Smythe encouraged me and pushed me beyond my limits. With his guidance and support, I wrote what I consider to be one of the best essays of my high school career. Mr. Smythe's belief in me gave me the confidence to believe in myself. He showed me that I'm capable of achieving great things, and his influence left a lasting impact on my life. Dr. Crisfield actually heard me telling the story to a couple of my students, so that's how this whole thing kind of started. But today, I am the director of the Wissahickon Valley Boys and Girls Club, and it's where I strive daily to be the kind of mentor and inspiration that Mr. Smythe was to me. So, Mr. Smythe, I thank you for believing in me and for being a Wissahickon Nation hero.
Thank you, Kim, and thank you for being in on the roost. I appreciate that. And she's right. This is sort of where the idea spawned, so I give her full credit for that. Next, we have a current student, Miss Suhana Tanias. Suhana? Not here. Can't make it. We'll hear from Suhana maybe a different time. Then last, we have a colleague at the high school, Mr. Paul Goreska.
Good evening, Dr. Crisfield, Blair, members of the school board, and members of WIS Nation here and at home. It is my great privilege to be here with you tonight to honor Tim Smythe. To those of you who have seen Tim in action at Wissahickon High School, it is no secret that Tim is a comic book aficionado. But Tim differs from the comic book heroes he loves because while some heroes don capes and cowls, Tim embraces his inner nerd and rocks Marvel-themed ties. True to character, take a look, he's doing it right now. While some heroes retreat to their Batcave and tinker with gadgets and gizmos, Tim stows himself away in his classroom, replete with cardboard cutouts of Captain America and sculptures of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, to tinker with lessons and grade papers. While some heroes need their fortress of solitude. Well, actually, Tim needs that too. The point is, Tim's love of comics is more than just superficial. He turns his love of these characters and this medium into a passion that is palpable to every student he teaches. By incorporating comics and pop culture references to Tupac and Run DMC and everyone in between into the classroom curriculum, Tim has made it his life's mission to rescue students from the boredom of textbooks and unleash their imaginations. He has pushed students to follow in the footsteps of his favorite comic book hero, John Lewis, and get into good trouble. In doing so, Tim's students walk into his classroom as mere mortals, but leave as heroes. By always pushing his students to think analytically, he has armed them with the lasso of truth that they can wrap around news stories to discern fake news from cold hard facts. By teaching them to analyze historical events from multiple perspectives, he's given them the ability to soar above the limitations of a single narrative as if they were Superman. Finally, by fostering a love of learning and a sense of curiosity that allows them to connect ideas and to create their own unique understanding of the world, he's given them a tool akin to Spider-Man's web blast. But what truly sets Tim apart from your average run-of-the-mill comic book nerd, which he is, and what makes him truly deserving of the title of a Wissahickon hero, is his unwavering commitment to his students' well-being. He demonstrates incredible bravery and humility by openly discussing his personal life with his students. He shares with them about his own vulnerabilities and struggles. And by doing this, by sharing his own humility, he inspires them. And that's Tim's truest superpower, his ability to push students to give their all, to produce their best work, and become the very best version of themselves. Marvel's Stan Lee is credited with creating over 300 characters while working as a writer for the famed comic book publisher. And while that's an incredible legacy, it doesn't hold a candle to Tim's influence as a teacher. Over the course of his career, Tim has shaped, molded, and influenced the lives of thousands of students, sparking in many the origin story that make them heroes in their own right. Imagine for just a moment the ripple effect of Tim's influence, and you will easily understand why there's no one more fitting or deserving of this honor than Tim Smythe. Congratulations, Tim.
So when Dr. Blair and I were trying to think of a colleague to come speak, I think you can now see why we landed on Paul, because he's as much of a presenter and inspirational teacher and leader that we have. So it's at this point in the presentation where I typically guilt the unsuspecting recipient to come say a few unprepared words, I might add. Joan, if I could ask you and your family to come up here, please. He's going to need some support. Tim, I know that I didn't ask you to do this, but I'm guilting you into it. Congratulations.
I don't know what to say to that. I guess everything Paul said applies to the teachers at Wissahickon. I honestly don't know what to say. I do what I love to do, and I'm grateful for the chance to do it. And I've been doing this for about 23 years. The first day on the job was the day before 9/11 as a student teacher here at Wissahickon. And I decided to stay because I saw right then on the second day on the job the influence that teachers could have. And it's a tough job and it's a rewarding job. It is who we are. And my wife, who inspires me, all the time, as an inspiring 8th grade language arts teacher who's been here even longer than I have been. I am very blessed to have this job. And I love being able to go out in the country and around the world and working with education students now, because we need to help control the narrative of what's going on in our classrooms. And it is much more than standardized testing. It is much more than SUMAs and CUBAs and all the things that we do in the 5-paragraph essay. Sorry, Kim. And all those things. But it is, I think Paul puts it very, very nicely in that ripple effect. And so, yes, teachers are superheroes, but we're also people too. And what we do is challenging and is hard, but I cannot think of a more rewarding career to have. And so I'm very thankful for the time that I've had here. So I don't know what else to say, but thank you.
And everybody can see the tie that Paul was talking about. It was on cue. So that concludes this year's presentation. If we could, just one more round of applause, please, for our superheroes and family. So, thank you so much.
And I do want to congratulate you on behalf of the board. Your class sounds absolutely amazing. I would have loved to have been a student in it. And I don't know if any other board members want to say anything, but I do want to make sure we get a picture before you leave. We could do that. Did any other board members want to say anything? Yes, please. Isabel.
I just want to say, Mr. Smythe, I'm so happy for you. And honestly, thank you so much for being my teacher. You're very inspiring for me as well. And I just want to thank you so much for the gift you gave me when I think I've learned that in class one time. I like his globe so much, and he just went into the closet and got an inflatable globe. It was outdated, Zaire was still on the on the globe as a country, but I don't think that matters necessarily whether or not it's up to date or not. It's just a gesture. I still have it intact. I have not inflated it because it's just I don't want to pop it. I just want to have it there forever. It's a really nice memory. I love history class so much. It's my favorite subject. Ask any one of my friends and they already know, oh, she's a history nerd. Oh, she's the one who loves history class. And I honestly look forward to walking into your class every single day. Yeah, sure, I may have not wanted to do the LEQs or the DBQs, but the way how you taught it was very much manageable. Something that seems like such a daunting task all of a sudden seemed very much more manageable, breaking it into one step at a time. And the fact that, teaching AP World is no easy feat, it was your first year. I'm not the one to say whether or not you did it great, but I think you did it amazing as a teacher. I'm grateful for that. Thank you so much for teaching me. That 5 is awesome. And um, the way how you were also able to manage, teaching what happened in Asia, in Europe, in Africa, South America, North America. My God, like so many continents. As much as I love history, I may have messed up my consonants maybe once or twice on an exam, but and I remember, like not mentioning trade with Europe, and I got points taken off. Well, this is really where you start to realize how important it is to pay attention, just locking in the class, paying attention to what he says. And nothing he ever said was really confusing. He didn't mix up what happened in Asia with Europe. But he also didn't just focus solely on Europe because it is not a Eurocentric course. I really loved how he tried to, focus in on all of these different parts of the world, these different people. The curriculum for AP World is so vast, so huge. It's impossible. I don't know how he did it, but I think for that, he's also a superhero. I just want to say thank you.
Anyone else? Any other comments?
Amy, I just wanted to say that Mr. Smythe, I'm also a comic and graphic novel aficionado as well. And I've been going to San Diego Comic-Con every year since 2014. And I remember seeing a listing for your panel. I think it was summer 2023 in San Diego. And I think it was with your family, right? It was like, I tried to get out there, but it was held offsite, I think at the library or something. So I couldn't quite make it out there. I was bummed out I missed it, but hoping to see you at a San Diego Comic-Con panel once again in the future. And congratulations on your well-deserved award.
Anyone else?
I'll just echo the congratulations, and I love the creativity that you bring into teaching and how you try to touch your students in a different way. And I think that's amazing that we have that type of inspiration within our WIS Nation. And Paul, I would like for you to write every single speech for me in the future. So I will need your phone number later. That was amazing you did up there. Thank you for all your work. Much appreciated.
Anyone else? All right, well then, should we do a picture? All right. All right, now we're going to move on to another exciting presentation. Our recently tenured teachers, Danielle.
Good evening, and again, congratulations, Mr. Smythe. That is very well deserved, very exciting. We have some other teachers we'd like to honor tonight, our teachers who will receive tenure this year. So tonight we have our annual presentation of teachers receiving tenure. In Pennsylvania, teachers acquire tenure after teaching in the same public school district for 3 years and maintaining a satisfactory rating during that time. Tenure provides greater employment protections and changes their status from a temporary professional employee to a professional. So this evening, we are going to honor the following. So we have Casey Levin, Shannon Quigley, Stephanie Rushton, Nisha Savalia, Monica Surhoff, Melissa Carson, Harry Decker, Catherine Nguyen, Brianna Carson, Taylor Clark, Kathleen McCarthy, Catherine Reese, Nicole Tichy, Desmond Daniels, Brianna Lucia, Emily Metzinger, Amanda Blysworth, Marla John, and Lucia Gill. So please help me congratulate our recently tenured teachers this year.
Great, thank you, and congratulations to all the teachers that received tenure. All right, and now we'll move on to our budget introduction. Tim?
Okay, good evening. We're going to be talking about the budget and the introduction 25-26 fiscal year. So the key dates are January 31st, 2025. That's when the preliminary budgets are due, whether or not you're going to exceed or the Act 1 index. Some of our district budget meetings are February 10th, March 10th, March 31st, and May 12th. With the April 7th date to approve the preliminary final budget, and then June 2nd will be to adopt the final budget. So the Act 1 index for 2025-2026 fiscal year is going to be set at 4.0%. This is set by PDE, and it is the limit that we're allowed to increase taxes with regards to the millage rate. Millage rate then is attached to times the assessed value, which then creates your local taxes that you pay for your real estate. If a school district believes that this is not enough revenue, they have 2 areas that they can do to increase their revenue. One being that they could file for exceptions to the Act 1. Typically for this, it's the special education and the PSERS exception, or they can go out to a referendum, which is a vote by the public to allow them to increase the taxes above the Act 1. Our recommendation for the 25-26 fiscal year is to not exceed the Act 1 index. We did not qualify for any exceptions, and we do not plan to go out for referendum. This means that the maximum real estate tax increase that Wissahickon School District could approve is 4%. This is on the agenda tonight, and we'll be voting to pass the resolution not to exceed the Act 1 index under 16.4. Next slide that we have for you is a demonstration of where the Act 1 index and how Wissahickon School District has fared with that. We've been under the Act 1 index the last 5 years, and obviously we will not go above the 4% index for this coming fiscal year. However, we don't know what that is, and when we do, we'll be in. Where does Wissahickon stand in the county? Well, the good news is we are the 2nd lowest millage rate within the county. That's 23 school districts out there, 21 school districts, sorry, that we have out there, and we are the 2nd lowest right now. To give you an overview of our revenue, there's 5 main sources. The local real estate taxes, that is 66.4% of our income that is derived for the school district. That's based on the district's assessed value and the millage rate, as I stated before. Earned income tax account for 8.7%. This is the percentage that's levied against earnings of 0.5%. Retirement reimbursement, this comes from the state, it's 8.3%. This is 50% of the amount that we pay into the PSERS program. Basic education subsidies, 3.4%. This comes from state revenue. And then finally, we have the property tax relief of 3.3%, which is also a state revenue, and that's set by PDE or the state as part of their annual budget. Some influences on our revenue. For local revenue, assessed values is one of the areas that really drives the income that's earned for the school district. Currently, commercial real estate's having a little bit of setback with regards to the return to work and the buildings not being fully occupied by individuals. Ambler and Whippine have seen an increase where LaGuardia's had a slight decrease. The economy and unemployment, strong economy and low unemployment helps increase the earned income taxes that we get. It also helps with the revenue that we derive from other areas. The state revenue is pretty much stable with some growth and potential with the subsidies. They added the charter school subsidy this past year. We'll be adding that in, factoring it into our current budget. Federal revenue is relatively low. However, it does play a role with regards to title funding. There's some changes potentially with the Department of Education that could impact about $1.6 million of the funding the district currently receives. All circumstantial, no one knows what's going to be voted on, but it is something that I have to keep my eye on because it would impact how we manage our budget. And then possible changes to the Medicaid program could also impact roughly $100,000 to $200,000 worth of revenue. Expenditures, salaries are 48.3% of our expenses. We are a service industry. We do need the teachers and the staff to teach the students, so that is not any surprise to anyone, I would assume. Benefits are 28.6%. However, it is important to note that the PSERS and Social Security, well, they amount for the bulk of that. We also get a 50% rebate from the state. The medical, dental, and vision then accounts for another 27.2% of that 28.6%. Buildings, this is what the buildings will use with regards to their supplies. They account for 1% of our budget. And I want to make sure everyone understands that's just the supplies that the buildings run. That's not the curriculum, the instruction, or anything else. That's just the supplies piece of the budget. The departments include superintendent, assistant superintendent, buildings, grounds, business office, curriculum, federal programs, human resources, special education, state and local programs, technology, transportation, middle school and activities and athletics, high school activities and athletics. All those areas amount to 17.4% of our budget, with debt service only being 4.7%. That is bond payments and transfers account. Areas that will influence the salaries and benefits, contractual obligations, which will be voted on tonight. That'll make that a lot easier when you're trying to figure out where your budget is, to know what the increases you'll be planning for are. Staffing that needs to be changed due to programming. So if there's increases in staffing or a different program that needs more staff for it, we have to account for that. PSERS rate is set by PDE and has leveled off the last 3 years with a 0.1% drop this past year. Hopefully, since the economy is strong, that we'll be able to see that dropping again. The PSERS rate's typically out around December 15th, so I'm looking forward to seeing where that is. Medical, dental, and vision, those rates typically increase our cost each year. It's just based on the uses and consumption that can fluctuate up or down based on the health of the district for that particular year. Buildings, the prices will be increasing. There's no surprise there with regards to the supplies and some of the different areas and supplies that we are purchasing and need to add for instruction. Department increased costs, transportation, as there's a per route cost that our transportation company does pass on to us. It does have a built-in increase as part of the contract. Substitute costs, that's based on the need as well as what we need to pay for them. There's other contractual service costs, supplies, repairs, and new curriculum costs that we need to be focused on, some of it being required by PDE. And then finally, the debt service. Is there any new debt that we need to be aware of with regards to borrowing? Again, on the prior board meeting, we did approve the ability to go out and seek another bond next year. Is there any questions?
Tim, you made reference to an action item that we're going to be voting on this evening, which will essentially bind us to not exceed the Act 1 index of 4.0% for next year's tax increase. But I also wanted to make clear that it does not obligate us to raise taxes to 4%. I mean, basically, it sets a ceiling. But based on the discussions and back and forth in developing the budget, we could end up, and I'm hoping that we end up at a figure below the 4% maximum.
That is correct. It is just the cap. It's not setting the increase. It's not doing anything other than informing everyone we cannot exceed 4%.
Thanks.
Tim, I just wanted to thank you for this presentation. I thought it was very well done and very informative. We should probably talk to our comms people and see if we can have it live in one area of our website, because I do think it's a really nice reference point, especially for those who are seeking to better understand how our budgets are managed. So thank you for the work that you put into this.
You're welcome.
Tim, I just had a quick question, just for a reference, I guess. How much, if we wanted to keep everything we have in the district currently, all the programs and our teachers and all the things, not adding anything, how much would we need to increase our budget for the next year?
Not adding anything or just adding in the increases for staff wages?
Sure, that is a given, right? We have to do that.
So you'd have the staff wages increase and you'd have the healthcare increase, healthcare roughly 8%, let's just say, and then staff increases somewhere between 3 to 4%. So about 1.4 million without doing anything.
Okay.
And then you'd have to factor in transportation, which could be up to 800,000. So right there is 2.2 million without doing anything.
And we have like, what, 130 million, is that right, budget?
Roughly, yeah.
So how much would we have to raise taxes to achieve that, just that number then? You don't have to do math now. You can let us know. But I just wanted to illustrate the point that, sometimes I hear, why are you raising taxes every year? Well, because our costs are increasing every year. And if we didn't raise taxes, we'd have to take away something that we currently have, right? And so I think that's like just a fact that I think is like hard to accept sometimes, but like needs to be said.
Simpler way to look at it, 0% tax increase would require cuts.
There you go. That is, yeah. Yes, I just wanted to make that clear. I would love to know that we talk about it in budget meeting usually, but the actual percentage of tax increase just to keep what we have, it's always fascinating to me. And then there's always needs and wants beyond that, obviously year to year, that we have to make a budget for in the district. So thank you for this information. It was really helpful.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you also for the presentation. This was great. Thank you. All right, so we will move on now to our first public comment period. And with our instructions, the board appreciates hearing from the community. We allow a maximum of 5 speakers to be heard on the same topic. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. In the interest of fairness and in order to treat all speakers equally, it's not our practice to engage in dialogue with speakers. When appropriate, we will follow up with responses on board docs. When approaching the podium, or if you're virtual, please state your name, your municipality, and the topic on which you're speaking. As a reminder, we do now have the clock, so don't be alarmed when you hear the buzzing noise. I think it is pretty soft now. All right, so we only have 1 person registered in person, Carmina Taylor. First public comment.
So I'm only here because I want to reclaim, I came in person today because this is not my 3 minutes. I was muted last time. All right, so if you want to do that. So earlier today, you guys got an email, and I'm going to read what the email said. Dear Dr. Crestfield and Dr. Dewan and members of the school board, I'm writing to express my profound disappointment and concern regarding my treatment during my tenure within the Wissahickon School District and the events that unfolded in 2021, culminating with my forced departure from the district. Having served the district for 17 years, with what I believed was a record of dedication and professionalism, I was blindsided and devastated by the actions taken against me. The process that led to my removal, the accusations of incompetence during my time at Bluebell Elementary.
Armina, which agenda item is this related to?
The district goals, hiring, Aren't you doing an update on the district goals today? That was on the agenda. Isn't one of the district goals about hiring and the benchmarks?
Okay, that's fine.
So now I lost another 30 seconds. Okay. But didn't I write that on the paper, Amy? Didn't I write district goals?
Your goals, but you're reading an email.
Okay.
I didn't understand. if you were
So
related
the
to district
process that
goals.
led me to my removal and the accusations of my incompetence during the time at Bluebell Elementary and the public letter sent to the community were deeply damaging to my professional reputation, emotional well-being, and financial stability. To this day, the letter continues to harm my career prospects as it frequently appears in Google searches when potential employers investigate my background. It creates an unjust and lasting perception of wrongdoing, further complicating my efforts to rebuild my life. It's a very long letter and it's not 3 minutes. It's more than 3 minutes actually. But I want to point out that I was sent this letter from a former principal at the elementary school at Bluebell. It's salacious and I cried. And, you know, watching Mr. Smythe talk and how students were happy about the way that he gave back to them, I was almost saddened to read this. And I'm not doing this to embarrass you guys, but it's really hurting me to constantly be up here, to not think of positive things to say. But I don't have positive experiences with most of you. And I hope that you read her email. I hope that you hear her concerns. I hope you read what she attached to the text, because when we talk about the impact on students, it starts with teachers and principals in the school setting. And it's painstaking to be up here because I feel really disheartened that we can't do better at actualizing what's important for this school district. So I'm not going to continue to read the letter because my heart is palpitating. But I want to share how when we look at why we have openings and people are resigning, why that happens and what's at the root of it. I might come back and read this letter again because there's other former employees that have concerns about hiring practices and retention practices. And I hope that all of you will take it seriously because that is your duty to the community. And I think when you evaluate administration at this level, I know contracts, that those are all factors in their evaluation. So it perplexes me how they continue to get increases when there's problems in the schools. So I'll be back at the second public comments, but just know that this was not very easy for me to share. And my heart is hurting. So I am a human being. I do care and I do feel. So I feel like my message was abrupt.
Is anyone online?
There are no hands raised online.
Great, then we'll close our first comment period. All right, so we will move on now to my report. First is the approval to appoint Steve Walker to North Monco Technical Career Center Joint Operation Committee for a 3-year term, effective December 2024 through December 2027. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion passes. Congratulations, Steve.
Thanks.
Next is approval of the collective bargaining agreement between the Wissahickon Education Alliance and the Wissahickon School District dated July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2027. And again, I'm really pleased that we were able to have this agreement. This is an early bird agreement between the two parties, and I thank the union members for being here this evening and for working on this deal with us. It means a lot to the board, and it means a lot that you're here this evening to be part of this vote. So thank you. So do we have a motion?
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any other comments? Yeah.
I don't think Danielle was here last week when we initially discussed it. So I do want to say thank you, Danielle, for your work on this. And also thank you Lisa and teachers that are here. I appreciate this so much for our kids and for you all. I think this is amazing. So thank you.
Yes, sir, Danielle, you weren't here last week, but yeah, we did extend our thanks to you and Tim when you weren't here. All right, any other comments or questions? All right, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone? All right, motion passes. Again, congratulations and thank you. All right, we'll move on now to our superintendent report.
Thank you. Tonight, the first item is an informational item. It's just the first of 3 updates on the annual board goals. And as you may recall, we established a total of 5 for the beginning of the year. This being December, with time to update everybody. The first goal, number 1, is to fill key staffing vacancies in district leadership positions, and then craft and carry out a deliberately designed transition plan for newly placed leaders intended to support these key employees in fulfilling their leadership responsibilities. So we've taken the first very big and important step towards that goal with the appointment of Dr. Dewan for superintendent. And very soon, probably the beginning or the end of this week and maybe even next week, we'll share with staff and community the process for finding the next assistant superintendent. One obviously has to happen after the other. So for that search, we are engaging the intermediate unit to help us. And again, we'll have some details on that maybe Friday or latest Monday. The second goal is to support the implementation of positive behavioral interventions and supports, PBIS, district-wide as part of an effective multi-tiered systems of support, MTSS framework. This is the second year of 2-year goal. And Dr. Dewan, if you would share a little bit about that, please.
Yes, thank you. So this year is the second of the 2-year goal. This is the installation year where we've been focusing on implementing Tier 1 strategies and interventions in all of the schools. As you may recall from previous updates, we have PBIS core teams in each of our schools. And of course, our district PBIS coach is Ms. Latour. So she has been leading the charge in supporting our school teams, our core teams at each of the schools, ensuring that they have structures in place to systematically and consistently review student data and work to plan school-wide events, in addition to planning for communication with families, engaging and collecting insights from staff and students, as well as parents and caregivers' feedback on various aspects of our implementation. The school teams some of them have already started making videos targeting the school-wide expectations so that students can see the common language, common expectations, common practices in being proactive and being responsive to behaviors. Those videos are entertaining for students. They do show some of the inappropriate behaviors, but always showing the appropriate expectations and appropriate behaviors. So they're very intentional in how they're structured to provide that guidance for students. This year, the focus is truly on Tier 1 fidelity implementation. And so throughout this year, we'll be looking at Tier 1 fidelity documentation. We have a partnership with the MCIU and with the Pennsylvania Positive Behavior Supports Network. And so we have a facilitator who's our point of contact with whom we work and is supporting our process in ensuring Tier 1 fidelity. Coming up in the new year, we'll have an annual PBIS self-assessment survey, and that's used to collect data on how effective the behavior supports that are in place are in each of the schools. And then we had earlier this year a PBIS convening session with all of the core teams facilitated by the district PBIS coach, Ms. Latour. I was also present, and that session will occur again as a second PBIS convening session after the new year. And that's a time for those PBIS core teams to come together to get updates and insight from Ms. Latour, but also to develop their professional learning opportunities for the core teams. And then they also share what each of the schools are doing with one another and with the PBIS coach. So Ms. Latour works closely with those PBIS core teams throughout the year, but these convening sessions will bring all of the schools' core teams together. So it truly is a wonderful opportunity to continue to ensure that we have sustainability in our efforts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Goal number 3, as you may recall, obtain and examine updated long-term enrollment projections by school and match them up with updated capacities of each district's 6 schools. And that is in progress. We have the first draft of those enrollment projections from our demographer. We're cleaning up some of the data. And once we get that done, I think probably at facilities, maybe at finance, or maybe both, we'll share out how the updated projections map out against each building's capacity, which we're also recalculating because be it the Stony addition or the middle school pool conversion or the upcoming Bluebell addition, each of those 3 buildings anyway need updated capacity. So we'll have all that probably in the early 2025. Goal number 4, in partnership with the WEA, craft a fair and reasonable successor collective bargaining agreement. Well, as we just heard, that one is 100% complete, and I can't tell you how exciting that is to just know that we go into the next school year with that locked up. So I echo the sentiments to the team here with us tonight. Thank you. And then goal number 5, cultivate a safe and inclusive school environment through the implementation of practices that promote belongingness, conflict resolution, and pro-social behaviors. Dr. Dewan, you want to give us a little update there?
Yes,
Please?
thank you. So of course, our staff are continuing to be trained in restorative practices. That's an essential element to support this goal and to support our students in all of the spaces across our schools. And as I mentioned earlier, PBIS implementation is a critical element as well. And so that is something that's relevant to this goal. All 6 of our schools are continuing to work to obtain their status of no place for hate. They all obtained that status for last school year through various efforts. And so we look forward to them obtaining that status again this school year. When we think about the culture of our school, we know that culturally responsive practices are an essential part of ensuring that the culture of our school is positive. And so that's relevant for me to mention here. We have 5 students from high school who are participating in the MCIU's Dreaming Forward Leadership Opportunity. So that's going to target belonging across the Montgomery County school districts, and that's going to build on student leadership development. So they'll be bringing back information to their high school and looking for ways to share out that information and to share out those key learnings. This Wednesday, several high school students are going to be participating in ADL, that's Anti-Defamation League's annual Youth Leadership Conference. At that conference, Dr. Jill Walsh is going to be speaking about the dangers of normalizing hate online and how teens are being affected, which is such a critical topic, as we know. So those students who are participating in this opportunity are going to be working with staff and student leadership groups to turn around their key learnings following this experience, which we think is so relevant and critical as we think about a safe and inclusive environment for our schools. So that concludes our update.
Great, thank you so much for that report. As we're talking about number 2 and 5, one question that's come up to me is, obviously we put our teachers and our staff through training, but we do have individuals like coaches, for example, that maybe aren't staff. And maybe like other individuals that may come in after hours and work with our students that aren't staff. Do we have any sort of training that we provide them to make sure that they help to cultivate this safe and inclusive school environment and help promote belongingness? Like, do they get that training?
Thank you for the question. And let me do a little research to explore that and to ensure that if we don't already have that in place, that that's something we will be working toward, because it is so important. They are involved in our students' lives, and certainly we want to make sure they have that same training and sort of shared expectation and understanding around how we're supporting our students. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other questions?
I had a quick question about the No Place for Hate program. I had asked my kids about it because there's a sign hanging in the lobby of their school. And I said, do you know anything about this? And they said, nope. Now they could have been absent that day. Very possible. But I'm just wondering what the training or education is for the teachers, and then is also something for the students that they all review and maybe have a pledge that they sign or something. I'm just curious as to what makes us a No Place for Hate school.
Thank you for the question. So the staff are engaged in learning ways to ensure that they are working toward not having a place that is, no place for hate. I don't want to say it. No place for hate, essentially. And the core team that has been working on identifying activities to engage students in, that's going to help strengthen that culture. There is a pledge that they have students think about and sort of sign off on, focusing on the school environment being no place for hate, ensuring that everyone has the same expectation for cultivating a positive and inclusive environment. The fact that you have that experience is good feedback, so that we'll make sure we're thinking about how are we making clear to students what this is. It could also be that the language of no place for hate is not the targeted language, but the learning around how we treat one another, ensuring that everyone feels a sense of belonging, ensuring that what we are doing in our actions and in our words are creating a safe space for our students. That's really the focus. So it may be that that language specifically around no place for hate didn't resonate for some of our students. But what we really want to ensure does resonate is how we treat people and what the environment is for all students to feel safe and welcome. Thank you for the feedback.
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
So a question slash comment. I had to actually go back and rethink where all this resides. And it's in our section under school board. So I feel like it's a little hidden and not so easily findable. Not a word, but not easy to find. And then maybe we could think about placing it somewhere else. But that's a Kristen thing. But the other thing that I just wanted to note was it's just broad statements of the goals, and there's like no supporting information underneath each of those. So maybe something we could think about moving forward is just kind of add in some context around that, or what it entails or what we're trying to do. It just points to where we've approved for things, but not necessarily the context around it. Like your narrative definitely is so helpful, but it's a narrative, right? And it's lost when you don't have like at least some supporting bullets. So my thought is, can we perhaps think about how do we want to communicate around these things in a way that's easily understandable, especially for those who may not be able to come or hear at these meetings. But thank you for the updates.
All right, so any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, second item.
Second item is what we reviewed last week, which is the 2025-26 school calendar. It is unchanged from the draft that everyone saw last week. So with that, I would ask please for a approval of agenda item 7.2.
So moved.
A motion's made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions?
So I had some feedback from parents after the calendar was shared. I just wanted to ask some questions so that you could explain, Dr. Crisfield, a little better. Why do we start school after Labor Day? That's always a hot topic. And also, why are there extra half days and why are they on Wednesdays?
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent questions all, yes. The first one circulates about every 3 years or so when districts across the region and state really decide when to start their school before or after the Labor Day holiday weekend. And historically here, we've based it on three factors. One is to a lesser degree, this is a smaller factor, but many high school families are back in the area anyway because sports practices start for fall season. A more important one, however, is that as the students advance in the levels in the high school and they get to AP classes, the AP exams are fixed. Their date that they are administered are fixed by college board, I think is ETS. And so starting after Labor Day means our teachers have that many fewer days for instruction in the AP classes. And the AP teacher will tell you that that every single day is instrumental leading up to those exams. But then really the other driving force is that all of the sending districts, the North Monco Technical Career Center, try as best we can to get on the same page to make the North Monco's scheduling challenge just a tiny bit easier, because if you might imagine, they're trying to herd 5 cats and get everybody on the same page and start their students at the same time. So we do try to be consistent, roughly consistent. To date, we 5 have been before Labor Day. There are some districts in the county that go after Labor Day, and I don't know how they handle their AP conundrum. And also, obviously, the later you start, the later in June you finish. So that's sort of the background. There was a second question. Oh, the half days. Yes. So the 2 additional half days are actually part of this early bird agreement. And what what we realized is there needs to, we're hoping to have some time for district directed professional development, and also some time for self-directed time on the part of the staff members. These 2 normally early dismissal days are in advance of a weekend. And that's been sort of the case historically. But these 2 are on Wednesday because what we find is the Friday ones are just a tiny bit less than effective in terms of the professional development time. And it's just much better in terms of attendance, in terms of other things getting in the way for them to be on a Wednesday. We are very, very aware of and attuned to the complications that any half day, any early dismissal day creates for childcare. For those families with younger children, we're aware of that. So we don't have litter throughout everywhere. But these 2 new ones are on Wednesday in an attempt to make the time a little bit more productive.
Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Assistant Superintendent report.
Thank you. No informational items or action items this evening.
Thank you. Board solicitor report.
Board members are requested to approve action item 9.1 as presented, which approves a settlement agreement excuse me, between Family One, number I-24, between the families, subject to the conditions set forth in the settlement agreement, not to exceed $50,000 as redacted. A motion and a second will be necessary.
So moved.
A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Jeff.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Board secretary report, Tim?
There are 3 items for approval: the work session on the 28th, regular board meeting on November 4th, and the REOC community listening session on November 18th.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Board treasurer report?
This month for your approval, we have the October 31st, 2024 treasurer's report.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, Tim. Our human resources report, Danielle.
Great, thank you. Changes from last week's agenda are marked with an asterisk and can be found in bold in the details. These include a resignation, an appointment, extracurricular changes, co-curricular post-season pay, and volunteers in items 12.1 and 12.2. Additionally, revisions to the assistant superintendent job description were added as item 12.8. All other items were reviewed at last week's work session and have no other changes. So this evening, I'm seeking approval for action items 12.1 through 12.8. Thanks.
So moved.
A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions?
So Danielle, I asked this question to Tim since you weren't here last week, and was curious. I know it's very early, but I heard that, we started the feedback on our coaches, this first fall season. And I was curious if you had some early indicators of how that's going. Are students actually, student athletes, are they actually participating and, completing those questionnaires? And do we feel like this is getting some good information back to whoever needs to read it, review it, et cetera?
That is an excellent question. I do know that they went out, and that's the last update I've received. So I do have a tickler to follow up with the high school just to see how it went and see what kind of feedback we got and see if there's any follow-up we need that needs to be done. So, but I don't have any information that I can report right now. But yeah,
Figured it would be too soon. We have two student athletes here, I think. Have you guys heard about the evaluation for the coaches? Do you know about it?
I have. I know me and a lot of my teammates have submitted that for.
Awesome.
And they actually asked me what it was because a lot of people were like, why is this email being sent out? Do I have to do this? And I said, yes, you should. And you should give Coach Greg.
No.
Just kidding. No.
Me, on the other hand, I did not know about this. I believe a lot of girls on the track team do not know about that either. But another factor into that is that indoor track is a winter season sport.
So
that
you
might
didn't
be
have a fall.
No, but I believe
Okay.
once we receive that email, I'll probably get questions asked too.
Okay.
Well,
Yes, I was a captain.
And so were you in charge of sort of like telling telling your teammates what it was or no?
Usually I'm
No.
just like, a lot of the girls just know I'm in the know for district stuff. So when they receive an email, they're like, yeah, what is this? And we were still in the state championships before that. So like a lot of we received the email before our
It came
season
out
was
before your
technically
season ended.
over.
Yeah, because you went later. Okay.
and I also just want to clarify, it's not an actual coach evaluation. It's a feedback form. So we're able to take feedback about coaches, but also the program, about the student's experience. So it's really a feedback loop in order to improve our athletic programs.
Perfect. But maybe like a takeaway would be making sure we communicate and everybody knows how to access it.
Are the coaches
When that'll be
encouraged-
part of the conversation I have with the high school. We'll see how many forms we got back and see if there's any holes and maybe if a little more outreach needs to be done, they can facilitate that.
Danielle, are the coaches facilitating that right now or is it? the
It comes
athletic
directly
director?
from directly from the athletic office.
Athletic office, yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions? All right, then all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Communications committee, Duffy?
I have no items for this meeting.
Great. Curriculum and technology.
We have no new items, all were reviewed last week. So I am seeking, I think I'm stuck in the HR report. Where am I? I'm seeking a motion for Dr. DeBlanc, can you help me out? 14.1 through 14.3. There you go. Thanks.
So moved.
Second.
All right, a motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, facilities and transportation.
We have one item for review for vote tonight. It's approval to discard or sell obsolete equipment. And it was reviewed last week and is unchanged since then. So I'm seeking a motion for approval of action item 15.1.
So moved.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Finance committee report. Steve, do you want to have Tim cover this?
I can manage it if you can hear me.
We
Uh,
can, yeah.
We have 7 items. The one change is that the audit or review of the financial and compliance report for the district. The audit committee took a look at that earlier this evening, and there were no reports of noncompliance or structural deficiencies. Therefore, a good audit report, which is now attached within board docs, if people want to look at that audit report. Otherwise, the items are the same. Thanks again to Tim for going over the potential tax increase amount. And so I'm making a motion for items 16.1 through 16.7 for approval.
So moved.
A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thanks so much, Steve.
Yep.
Policy committee report, Marshall.
Thank you. Tonight, we have a motion to approve the second and final reading of board policies as noted in section 17.1 17.14. As reviewed last week, there are no changes. So I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Racial Equity Oversight Committee, Paul.
Thank you, Amy. We have no items.
All right. Health, Wellness, and Safety, Rosetta.
Hi, thanks, Amy. There are no informational or action items for health, wellness, and safety.
All right, thanks, Rosetta. And Marshall, I think you covered extracurricular last week. Anything additional to report?
I did go over everything last week, and there are no changes from that. So I don't think there's a need to update on anything from that.
Right. For MCIU, the only thing I really wanted to note is that we're right now going through the process of preparing our comprehensive plan for the next 3 years. And also, I believe there was a survey done also superintendents recently. Did you participate in a survey with the MCIU? Just sort of looking at, I guess, as part of this comprehensive plan process. So they're in the process of working on a 3-year plan. So more news, I guess, to come on that. All right. I'll switch pages on. There we go. North Mako.
We didn't have another meeting since the last time, but as a reminder, our holiday dinner is next Monday, a week from today. So you're all invited to that on the school board. So hopefully you can make it. You do have to RSVP, so you know to account for you all. And it's a really nice event. So hopefully you can make it.
Great. PSBA.
So there are 2 things I wanted to mention. One was the PSBA reminds boards that January is a time to review and readopt principles for governance and leadership. And if you do this, we could submit an online form, and then our district name would be added to the list of entities that have adopted it. I don't know if it's something we're interested in doing necessarily. I think we have that already. It's just, I guess, maybe a formality that we would go through and then submit it to PSBA. The other thing that was interesting to me today was there's you can get a certificate in school safety preparedness. I didn't know if that was something that Tom wanted to do. There is a cost associated with it, and there's like a couple of sessions he would have to attend online and then also a day in person. So I'm not sure if that's something that's worth it or not, but certainly something we can look into to see if we want to do that.
Great, thank you. And I don't think there's anything on ERC, right?
Correct, thank you.
All right, well then we'll move on to our second public comment period. And I'll read the instructions again. The board appreciates hearing from the community. We allow a maximum of 5 speakers to be heard on the same topic. Please limit comments to 3 minutes in the interest of fairness and in order to treat all speakers equally. It's our practice not to engage in dialogue with speakers. When appropriate, we do follow up with responses on board docs. If you're in person or in Zoom, we would ask that you state your name, your municipality residence, and what topic you're speaking on. And we'll start in person. Nick Militello. Oh, and I do remind everybody again about the buzzer.
Thank you. My name is Nick Militello. I live in Lower Gwynedd, and I am speaking about the Wissahickon Middle School chiller. First of all, I wanted to thank the school board. Last month, you had a very extensive conversation in addressing our concerns. You have a honest and thoughtful plan. We did have concerns, and I wanted to also personally thank Ms. Ginsburg because she brought up the back and forth conversation about recognizing that we were not fully on board with this solution and moved the project ahead anyway, so we could get it done and resolved quickly. So I wanted to bring up what those last little pieces of our concerns were in addressing to the last part of what Ms. Ginsburg had offered, which is to continue the discussion with what our concerns were and allowing the study to be continued. Our number one concern is the sound wall that's going to be put in place robust enough for the $24,000 design? Because the $24,000 is just a design model, and it's coming off of numbers that we feel, and we have reason to feel, are not substantial enough. So that's the primary concern. The second concern is, even if you lower the sound enough for us as neighbors to become compliant, is it enough for our children? And I mean our children, your children, taxpayers' children, the school children playing in the fields, coaches in the fields, and things like that. We might have the sound quite adequate, or are they going to have it? So my specific concern is with the tests that were done. There was a couple tests done at different temperatures. Now, my neighbor, Eric Rudolph, he is an engineer by trade, and he is a project manager that built facilities, pharmaceutical facilities. So he did project design of grand scales. The bottom line is he found an online sound propagation model. He entered all of the numbers from the chiller specifications at 95°, and they were different than the highest that we had access to of Harrison's reports. So our thought and our concern was, if you aren't using the most robust numbers that are on the specifications, this is a sound study, he found it online, a more professional person can do the same study. Are we actually going to solve the problem? My big concern is, are we spending the $24,000 to solve the problem with the design that might need something bigger, and a simple statistical sound study might be able to solve this? So that is my concern and what I wanted to add to it and hope that we can. And his email really did a very good job.
Great, thank you, Nick. Is there anyone online?
There are no hands raised online.
Then we'll move to Jim Schneider.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me the time to speak. I am a neighbor of Nick's and Eric's, and I'm also here to express my concern about the ongoing noise issue by the floors of Wissahickon Middle School. As members of this wonderful community, we value the partnership we share with the school district and take pride in the positive environment it provides our children. As parents of children in the Wissahickon School District, I have children who are one in the middle school right now, 2 in the high school. We love the school district. We applaud all the efforts that you've done over the years. Everybody's come through Lower Gwynedd Elementary School. We live directly behind basically the middle school. So as parents, we truly preach a district's commitment to fostering a safe, nurturing, and high-quality learning environment. The education and opportunities offered are exceptional, and we know the safety and well-being of all our children is always a top priority. That said, the excessive noise generated by the coolers has become a significant concern, impacting our quality of life, raising environmental concerns, and affecting the safety and well-being of students. Prolonged exposure to such noise can disrupt learning environments and may pose risks to the health of children both inside and outside the school. While we understand the importance of these facilities to the school's operations, we trust that the district and school board will act quickly to address and resolve this issue. We are confident in the district's dedication to finding a solution that prioritizes both the safety of the students and the needs of the community. The current noise levels are concerning, and addressing them will not only alleviate disruptions, but also strengthen the positive relationship between the school and its neighbors. Thank you for the time and the consideration to help remedy this issue for our community.
Thanks, Jim.
There are no hands raised online.
Then we'll go to Rob Walker.
Good evening. My name is Rob Walker with Payne Township. I'm not here to talk about the same topic as these two gentlemen, but also how it pertains to the Blue Bell Elementary School. First of all, I just want to start this off by saying that, my wife and I, we love this school. We had two children go through the school district. One is an officer in the United States Navy. Dr. Russell presented him with the American Legion Military Award. And we had one graduate with honors in art. Has started her own business called I Am Human, which gives back to mental health organizations. We attribute their success to their time here in the school district. We have two currently, one in 6th grade, one in 9th grade, who are both excelling. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up tonight was my 6th grade daughter's comment, how noisy the children are when she's playing out. It really just a way of letting you know that it's not just who hear the children do as well. And I have been promised, and I have no reason to not believe it, that the chiller that's on Blue Bell Elementary will not cause the same noise and the same havoc that is happening in school. It's smaller, it has a sound wall. Everything that is being built there is to spec. I understand that. So I really, really hope, because I can literally see it 100 feet outside of my kitchen. What's really disturbing for me is in the first call, Dr. Creswell, you made a very poignant comment when you stated that Blue Bell Elementary is in a residential area. And so we have to be very good neighbors and be very careful about the fact that we are going to disrupt where they are living. And that has happened overwhelmingly. You tore down several trees to move the bus depot 100 feet closer to the house. You tore down several trees that you said you were going to replace by putting the addition of the school. You did put in new trees. You put in around 52 on the other side of the school. 25 arborvitaes, lines, skip back pike. They look beautiful, but we were really hoping that they would block the yellow buses that I see from my kitchen every single week. And now to add insult to injury, Mr. Bricker gave a very nice presentation on the budget. I have a good way of saving money. If you could possibly turn the lights in Blue Bell Elementary, it would be wonderful. I understand it might be a security issue, but there are timers and there are motion detectors that could possibly have the 20 by 40 foot window that is adjacent to my house now. The lights are on 24/7. They've been on 24/7 for at least 12 months now. They never turn off, ever. And it's like with the new lights that are over the depot right now, it's essentially like moving next to a supermarket, where at one time I had a bird sanctuary back. I want you to build a school. I know it's important. You can take these things into consideration. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob.
There are no hands raised online.
Amy Hughes.
Hi, Amy Hughes, Ambler Borough. I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, but I did attend the community listening session last month, and I wanted to circle back on that really quickly. When I watched the last meeting, I was surprised at the recap that almost didn't happen. I certainly didn't think that it was well attended. I think that that was pretty evident by the pictures that were posted on social media. I begged people to come. And the common theme was, what's the point? The admin staff and the board members outweighed the number of community members. And while I appreciate and I attend these things, I love these things, I appreciated the format and the topics for discussion. I did want to point out a few things that I hope that we can maybe adjust in the future. There were in fact no breakout sessions. That was not a thing. When we were brought in, we were intentionally segregated into groups for the duration. There was zero opportunity for any discussion or collaboration with anyone outside of our handpicked groups. My group, for example, was the smallest, with just myself, Carmina, and Saida. The three of us are always up here speaking, so it's kind of hard to believe that we were just, the three of us were chosen at random to sit at the table with only 3 community members, far away from everybody else. And when the topic was belongingness, I really felt super belonged. I also felt like it was a missed opportunity for the incoming superintendent not to listen in on some of the sessions. It was only an hour. Maybe get a pulse on how the community feels. And, you know, firsthand, there was zero interaction, and I felt like that was disappointing to say the least. And then finally, back on the topic of the middle school schedule that you claim to be good and under which all students are supported, notably our special ed students, against the facts and the opinions of the entire middle school teaching staff, that it is not. As it relates specifically to the world language program, which was once stellar and is now completely decimated. The administration has repeatedly dug in their heels and claimed that this decision was based upon extensive research and data compiled showing that our world language program was not in line with other districts. Essentially, it was overkill and unnecessary. When the teachers asked for this data, they were met with hostility, which was confusing until they found that their research did not match what admin had claimed. I recently submitted right to know request for this information and in fact received confirmation that no such data was compiled and does not exist. So my question to the board is this: now that we have this information, will this be investigated? Why didn't you ask for this when the teacher reps brought this to your attention repeatedly? This is the legacy that you're behind. Since you're standing behind this schedule, my last question is whether the district would consider changing the name of the school to Wissahickon Junior High School, effective immediately, as this more accurately reflects the school's model as it now exists today. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. All right, Adrian Ames.
Good evening, Adrian Ames from Lower Gwinnett Township. I have 3 kiddos in the district, 8th grader, 5th grader at Lower Gwinnett, and a kindergartner. I've spoken before about the middle school schedule. I've emailed multiple times to the school board and also to Mrs. Bauer. I know Mrs. Bauer was gone for, I don't know, sometime in November, and Dr. Crisfield did respond to my email saying she would get back in touch with me. But I did not hear back from her. I know things get busy. So I just wanted to bring up again some concerns with specific questions I'm hoping the board can answer. The middle school staff and parents of students are clearly sharing that the schedule is not in the best interest of the kids. Does the school board and central office administration understand there have been numerous requests for help pointing out the glaring issues with the middle school schedule? Can these requests turn into action? This change in the schedule must be made a priority. There is enough time to make changes by next August. Second request. Has the central office and school board communicated to the middle school administrative staff that they would like to actually see a change in the master schedule? These changes should include more common team planning time and meeting time so that teachers, counselors, and admin can meet and discuss student concerns and solutions for issues. Additionally, please consider that freckle time should not be a substitute to true instructional time from our talented teaching staff. Third request. Has the school board and central office had a conversation with any neighboring middle schools to get a sampling of what their schedules look like? There are pros and cons to every schedule, but why not start with reaching out to our neighboring schools, for example, Colonial Middle School? What does their day look like with regards to team meeting time? How do students participate in learning programs like Freckle during the school day, or do they not? Are these kinds of programs strictly reserved for outside of school hours only? Fourth request, will there be release time provided for middle school admin and teaching staff representatives to collaborate on plans alongside with central office staff to help aid in this task? Will this release time also allow for admin and teaching staff to meet with other middle schools to see the scheduling function in person? And then the last request. What will this timeline look like for fixing the middle school schedule so that it is in place for my rising fifth grader at Lower Gwinnett to experience a true middle school team-based schedule in our middle school, Wissahickon Middle School? Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. I forgot to ask you, anyone online?
There are no hands raised.
All right, Carmina?
So I'm gonna stay right here, and I don't want my 3 minutes because I don't want to take it away. Just want to say, Amy, people are texting, saying that you were rude to me, that you distracted me during my comments, and then people told me last week about being rude. So I'm not saying this, because it's me, I'm telling you, people have contacted me, and you should know that. I totally was thrown off by you interrupting me. So I'm gonna step to the podium and start my 3 minutes. So I'm here, I'm Carmina Taylor. For people that don't know me, I am a stakeholder for many reasons. I'm here because I want to know, when did the board change their policy of having the discretion to answer the questions we bring at the podium? My November 4th meeting questions have not been answered. My questions from last week's meeting have not been answered. So we fast forward to today. The most immediate issue is parents have asked for me to be their advocate, special ed parents and other parents that are not special ed. The issue, I received an email from Dr. Crestfield that basically there's a practice in this district that he gets to determine who's the immediate family for a parent when they want an advocate to come. So I'm asking the board, because there is no policy about who a parent can bring to a meeting at their request, who gets to determine and define who the immediate family is? So that's a question that I hope you will answer. I come up here all the time, and now I had to come in person because I was not treated well again. And I'm going to check right here to see if Dr. Crestfield signals you to tell me to be quiet. But this is a very serious situation that parents and Black parents in the school district seek help. Some of these parents, when Marshall was reading off the items for voting for policy, because he made reference to the numbers and the scale, they didn't know what the policies were. So if it's a first-time parent coming to a regular school board meeting, but they didn't come to the work session, how would they know what you guys are talking about today? So that's why people come to me, to help them kind of discern what's going on in the school district. And so that's why we have all these problems. I come here all the time talking about the marginalization and the discrimination practices that are happening to the Black children. I got interrupted last week. I want to say that in every school in this school district, Black students are the poorest performing students in English, math, and science in every one of our schools. I looked at a letter that I sent in 2007. We talked about the achievement gap in 2007, and now it's not any better. That's a systemic issue. You have a responsibility to do better by these kids. The school district is not defined by the strongest student. It's defined by how you help the weakest student. And right now, the weakest student, Dr. Dewan, since you've been gifted this school district, are the Black students, and the Black parents need you to advocate for them.
Thank you, Carmina.
There are no hands raised online.
All right, then our last person in person will be Yasmin Jean-Baptiste.
Good evening, everyone. Let me just pull it up real quick. All right. Good evening, members of the school board. My name is Yasmin. I'm a proud parent of the students. I'm a proud parent of students at the school district. My daughter is in high school, currently in 9th grade. My son's in middle school, 6th grade. I'm here today to propose the creation of an African-American Parent Advisory Board to address the unique challenges faced by Black and Brown families in our school community. While I appreciate the work of our home and school association, many African-American parents, myself included, do not feel welcomed or represented within this group. This disconnect is not about pointing fingers, but about addressing systemic issues where our voices, experience, and concerns often feel overlooked. It's especially that all families feel included, valued, and empowered to advocate for their children's success. The proposed African-American Parent Advisory Board will work collaboratively with the school, existing parent organizations to ensure that concerns and needs of Black and Brown families are heard and addressed. This board will serve as a bridge, creating open dialogue between families, teachers, administrators, and the board school community. Our mission would include advocating for equitable resources and opportunities for our students, supporting families with information, mentorship, and workshops on advocating the education system. Third, partnering with schools to celebrate diversity through events and programming that uplift African-American culture and contributions. The fourth would be working to eliminate barriers to engagement and ensuring every parent feels welcome to participate in their child's education. The creation of this advisory board is not just about addressing exclusion, it's about fostering inclusion and ensuring equity for all families. A diverse, empowered parent body strengthens the entire school community, creating a more supportive environment for every student to thrive. A suggestion I had was the chair of the Race and Equity Committee could be a board liaison. I know the Norristown School District Board approved a parent advisory board to give inclusiveness to the undocumented parents for the same reason. As a parent and active member of this community, I'm committed to serving on the board and supporting this board to bring positive change. I firmly believe that when families feel seen and supported, our children benefit immensely, both academically and emotionally. I respect and ask for the school board support to establish the African-American Parent Advisory Board. Together, we can ensure that every family feels like they belong as a voice in shaping the future of our school. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Yasmin. All right, anyone else on
There are no hands raised online.
All right, then we'll close public comment and we'll move on to board comments. Do any of my fellow board members have comments this evening?
I'll just, I hope everybody had a nice Thanksgiving. And I know this is our last meeting in 2024. So I'm wishing everybody a nice break. 2025 is going to be a lot of transition, a lot of changes, not just here at WIS, but all over the place. So get your rest. I hope we all do well. And hopefully everybody has a nice time off.
Thank you. Yes, happy holidays to everyone. Any other comments from anyone? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.